Welcome to Write Your Narrative, your weekly go-to Sweet Odd podcast.
There's just so much culture and life in South Florida.
Art helped me find myself.
I can sit here and complain that Miami doesn't have any of these things, or I can find a way to do it.
This is what I'm supposed to be doing.
We have changed the conversation.
You're in the right place.
Well, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. We are today recording from Wynwood, and my guest is Mr. Erni Vales. How you doing, Ernie?
Doing okay right here.
All right, so we are in your studio, a new space that you've been using for over a year since Fountainhead Studio shut down.
And yes.
Oh my God.
Fountainhead was a beautiful thing. We were there for 7 years. I bounced around from New York, Brooklyn, Manhattan to Los Angeles to Chicago. Found myself here in Miami, and it's always the same story. The prices drive you out. The rents drive you out. So to find Fountainhead was a beautiful thing because I was surrounded by other artists. So you have that. There's always that creative energy, and it's even if the artists aren't there. You just feel it, you see it, and that was a really beautiful thing. And then the people who kicked us out of there were actually very, very cordial. They're very cordial. They were like, "We're going to honor the leases, and we're not going to raise your rents, but we're going to give you a date when you have to go." And I was used to a date that gave you you had a 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And they gave us like a year.
Wow. Okay, that was nice.
So every artist was like, now I have time to prepare. I have time to move my stuff. Where am I going to go? Where, and it's not a rush where what happens is you end up throwing so much stuff away.
Oh,
you know why? Because
I should
you
have
can't
gone
take
to
it
the
with you.
dumpster, yes.
Yeah, you can't take it with you. You end up bringing it to your house and then looking for a space.
Yeah.
When you only have 2 weeks, anyway, so that was a really wonderful, wonderful space. I miss my artist neighbors, some really, really, really talented people, really, really wonderful people there.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I miss here is I don't
You just by yourself here in that little space.
Yeah, it's a little space. I don't need a lot of space. I don't know. I need that wall to.
Well, when you paint canvases, sometimes you paint.
When I'm painting, I'm really like, people ask me, "What do you do for a living?" I say, "I watch paint dry." Yeah.
All right.
They're like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Yeah, if you know what I do, you know what I mean."
You know what I mean? Yes.
I paint. I wait for it to dry, and then I paint again. So, but this, you'd only need a small area. Unless you're, an artist who paints really large.
Yeah.
And an artist who paints like a Haxa.
Oh my God,
I love him. I'm like, you made a paint distributor out of lawn sprinkler?
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I guess you would need a bigger space.
You need a big space. You need to be outside. You need to be on the outdoor. Yes. You cannot do something like you do.
There are some artists who need larger space to experiment. I'm not that artist. I like working. I can work large, but I can work very clean.
Your work is very, very clean. So just to introduce a little bit yourself and your work to the listeners. So you mentioned being very clean with your art. So you've kind of developed that 3D graffiti, and you came from New York. That's what you first said.
Yeah. I came from New York, but I got into graffiti in the High School of Art and Design in the early 80s. And
so you were an OG, a real OG.
What a school that was, right? I'm in school with Doze, Mr. Wiggles, Lady Pink, Fable, DJ Roger Sanchez, who was into hip hop at the time.
Okay.
Before he got into house music. So there was like 80 or 90 people who were influential in the graffiti arts. And I got involved with that scene because I'm like, this makes me seem cool, because I used to collect comic books before, and that didn't
Okay.
No girls wanted to meet the guy who's collecting comic books.
Well, it's good to be the painter or musician. I'm with the band. I'm with the painter.
All of a sudden, girls were like, "Oh, that's cool." I'm like, "Really? Oh, I'm gonna do more of this." But there was like the caveat, right? You had to paint trains. If you don't paint trains,
this is your school.
Yeah.
This is your school.
And that's why I think Grandmaster Flash said that graffiti is not an element of hip hop. It's associated.
It is.
Right? And I agree with him, and I agree with a whole bunch of other graffiti artists who are like, no, we're not an element of hip hop because we can get arrested for what we do.
Okay.
We're breaking the law. You're not breaking the law if you're breakdancing. You're not breaking the law if you're rapping. You're not breaking the law. We were breaking the law, and we were like, we're not an element. We are our own culture. We are our very own culture. And now you're talking about hundreds and thousands of people all over the world who do graffiti or graffiti-based or urban-based art. Has nothing to do with hip hop. They're like, I don't even listen to hip hop. I listen to rock and roll.
These days, yes.
Right. So today, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry.
It totally is.
And all of us are in agreement when we say graffiti stands alone. We stand alone.
Mm-hmm.
We're not an element. But you know why? Because the rap artists, they didn't do anything for us. You know, maybe some like Beastie Boys helped out. My friend Say. They already ran out of ideas.
Yeah, no, but the art was the graffiti was very, very present in all the videos they were doing.
It was present, but
MTV started at the time.
But did you know the artist who painted that piece?
Oh,
right.
Well, maybe not.
So
maybe not.
Yeah, it was like
I just say that.
No, we're so much more complex. We're so much better. We're so much, diverse. When you start looking around the world, when you start really investigating, you realize, man, there's 3D graffiti artists, there's taggers, there's guys now. I don't even know what it's called. People are piecing down the building. They're rappelling.
Yes.
This new thing. I don't know what I call it. Rappel-fiti, right? Right.
Rappel-fiti. Yes.
Right. Because these guys, I'm like, that's insane.
It is absolutely insane what they're doing.
And we were just in New York. I saw one piece on a side of a building, and the owners of the building, I guess, just with a roller of paint, covered the first letter because that's all they could reach.
Yeah.
And they're like, at least we'll disturb them from painting on this building because you have to paint the whole side of a building.
It's incredible. Yes, what they do.
That's the graffiti mentality. That's who we are.
Well, some of the guys did that this past Art Basel in Miami here in one of the building, the whole side of the building, the Vista building.
That was wonderful.
The Vista building.
And they did it in L.A.
They did it in L.A. and then they just actually totally tagged a mansion in L.A.
Right.
This past 3 weeks.
Right.
It's
amazing. I'm like, that's the spirit. That's the graffiti artist spirit. And it has nothing to do with hip-hop.
These days, and
so
not
going
anymore.
Back to the original
not anymore.
The story is we are one. We are one thing. We are graffiti artists, urban artists, whatever you do. I've had artists ask me in when I'll do a lecture or something, and they'll ask me, what do you think about tagging? And I'm like, it's I'm like, I am not the guy to tell you not to tag.
Of course.
I am the guy who will tell you the laws have changed. The laws have changed. And if you get caught, it's different today.
Well, there's
when I was
consequences.
Back then, you get the cop might, they give you a whack on the head and say, get the hell out of here. But I'm like, know the law. Know the law and know what you're expected of if you get caught.
Yeah.
You get on a plane going international.
Exactly.
And now you get off the plane and they give you that little piece of paper and it says, have you ever been arrested for a felony? your 2 more hours.
Yeah. Well,
2 more hours
think twice.
answering questions. If you're okay with that, I'm fine with it. I don't use
By all means, yeah.
right. So
Well,
I'm like,
It's something you do in your teens, in your early age, in your 20s.
Want to do that. And also, my biggest problem with tagging is when you stop tagging, that's it. It goes away. 1 year, your tags are gone.
Your tags are gone.
Your tags are gone. You forgot.
Well, doing it, usually you're doing it over and over
Right.
and over and over
It's
and
a
over.
nonstop job.
It is.
And that's that brings us into a whole other issue, but we're not going to talk about that other stuff.
So yes, I had the chance to do an interview with you in 2017 that was never published, but unfortunately, but at the time, and then you mentioned something. The graffiti is the last true American-made art form.
Oh,
and this is what we are talking about.
Absolutely.
This is something absolutely American-made, and this is a real recognized art form these days.
Yes, today you can go to the Museum of Modern Art. You can go to any contemporary museum, and you might not see graffiti. But if you go to their basement, they've been collecting for decades.
I'm sure.
Because they know they're a museum. They have to.
All the
They
big
have to.
auction houses too are auctioning off
auction houses,
huge
absolutely.
pieces.
Yeah.
I mean, pieces that are and worth
Yeah, so-
millions of dollars.
And now it's accepted. Like they're like, oh, well, who have you been collecting?
Correct.
Who do you have in your coffers?
Yeah.
It is normal now. Why? Because it's a movement. Something happened. I don't know why, where, or when, but graffiti went from this thing to a collective movement, and it became
Yes.
a culture. I always say that I'm an artist, and my base is this tree trunk.
Yeah.
When I started, it wasn't a tree trunk.
No.
It was a little thing, and
Yeah.
it kept growing. Right now, it's a huge tree, right? And I'm a leaf on this tree. I don't know what the leaves on the other side of the tree are doing, but I know they're doing something,
They're doing
and
they
it's helping
growing.
the tree grow.
It does.
Right.
It does.
So collectively, we are, graffiti is not going to ever be erased from the collective mind anymore. It has passed that point. I get messages, Facebook or
Facebook DM and everything.
Instagram, of people who are like, wow, I see what you do. I've been wanting to do this, and my parents don't want me to do it. And I'm like, that's the reality. That's
the reality.
Yeah, and I'm like, keep doing it.
And on the other end, you have people like places like the Museum of Graffiti. They give graffiti classes now. Thank God we had the Museum of Graffiti in Wynwood, so they give classes. And a few months ago, I had that little kid, Tab Tunes, who's taking all kinds of graffiti classes. Is a little genius.
Yeah.
And I had him on a podcast with his father. And on this end, it's so nice to see people nurturing art, giving that platform, that chance to their children.
What you just said is important. Nurturing art. So you've already, and this group has already decided that this is art.
Yes.
That this is art.
Yes, this is
Once
art.
you make that decision, you can't go back from that, right? You're like, this is an art form. So are you going to get behind your kids? Are you going to be supportive of that? I've always been supportive of, now it's different because things are changing. People are accepting the fact that graffiti is real. The law enforcement has been really, really good at getting rid of the art on the streets. So all they have is tags. That's all they got. You drive around, you're like tags. Why? Because the crime it's still illegal.
Yes.
But the amount of time I spend on a beautiful mural is the same crime as if I just tag the wall. And tagging the wall is just 3-4 minutes.
Yeah.
3-4 minutes. I can tag this wall, bomb, see you later. I can tag the wall and go to another wall, tag the wall, tag the wall, tag the wall, and I can go just down the block.
Yeah.
Instead of painting a beautiful mural. So the artists are like, I'm not going out there anymore. I'm not going out to paint a beautiful mural illegally. I need permission if I'm going to spend hours and hours and hours there.
Yeah.
So it robs the public of the nice murals that used to be done illegally.
Well, we have both in Wynwood. We have both in Wynwood.
But
yes.
back when I was in Brooklyn, or back when I was in, in Los Angeles, you took your chances. Or back when I was painting trains.
Well, painting trains must have been something incredible.
Yeah, painting trains was just like you're painting the train for a certain group of people, and it's your peers. That's it. That's it. When people told you, yo, I saw that piece, because one, it was rare because there's thousands of subway cars in the line. And when that train came by that you painted and somebody saw it, that was you move up the social ladder.
Yes.
And people were like, oh, man. And that separates you from the guys who would not go into the train yards because they were scared.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
There was a...
Well, that scene back in the 80s, especially in New York, must have been pretty scary. Yeah, it's fine. Yes. Okay.
It was scary. It was scary if you got caught, right? But it was, think of it this way. As you thought of what you were doing, and I asked all my friends that were doing the same thing, like running around train yards with live third rails and stuff.
Yes,
like
that too.
And the fact that the workers could come and chase you, or the police could come and chase you, and you still went and did it. And I asked all of my friends,
that was a thrill.
Would you let your kids today, who are like maybe 13, 14, 15 years old, would you let them do it? They're like, hell no. I'll break their arms.
Of course not.
Because as you get older, you realize that you're human. You're human.
Yeah.
And then you think back and you're like, oh my God, that was so insane. That was stupid.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, I ran under a train that was moving.
Did you?
Twice.
Oh,
because it wasn't moving fast.
Yeah.
It was moving very slow. But I also knew I'd been under trains so many times. I'm like, that's the spot. That's the spot.
Okay.
I know I can get under the train. It was the last car and the train was pulling into the yard. And I went under, and the worker, it wasn't police, it was a worker, and he just went around the back of the train. So when I came out on the other side, he was there. So I ran back under the train, and I think, I don't know, I never met the worker, right? I think he was like, if I keep chasing this kid, he's going to get hurt.
He's going to get hurt because eventually,
yeah, he's going to get hurt. He's like, I don't want that. Like, that's what I would be thinking. I'd be like, you know what? This kid wants to get away so bad that I'm, no. That's it. I'm not chasing him no more.
Yeah.
Because if I chase a kid, I was like 18 at the time, and God forbid I tripped and lose a limb.
Exactly. Yeah.
That guy, if I was that guy, I'd be thinking,
you would feel somehow responsible
because I chased them.
Yeah.
He's just painting a train. He's not hurting a single human being at all.
Exactly. Even if he's doing something illegal, it's not.
He's just painting a train. I don't
makes it nicer.
Right. At the end of the day, I just want to go home.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to go home to my family. I don't care that he painted the train. The trains look ugly without the painting.
Yeah. And that's something you mentioned in that interview we did. You used to live on the 13th floor, and you used to throw your pen. Yes, you used to throw your pen, aiming at the tree, making sure that the cat. Yeah, that's the story you told us.
That's exactly right.
You will leave your house saying, Mom, no, I'm just going to go out and party and everything. and you would get your
My
paint
mom would rather
downstairs.
me go out and do ecstasy and party. Rather, she didn't know, but she would go to the
Family.
train yards. Oh my God!
Yes.
So how do you come home and you're so healthy? I had such a great time. That place was a wild place.
It was a wild place. You have no idea. You have no idea. Yes. But thank you so much for these people who are there at the time, talking about Henry Chalfon and Martha Cooper. I listened to something from her yesterday in a podcast, and she says she still has the thrill of documenting the illegal art. Like she spends a lot of time with the One Up crew in Germany and all over the world. So she still has that. She's
She
such
don't
an
stop.
incredible,
She don't stop.
incredible
I saw her.
lady.
I saw her in London, and again, Martha and Henry are pretty much responsible for making it a culture, because they opened up a little window
They did.
so people could have a glimpse and say, this is not just like people with a spray can writing their name. This is different. The 80s in New York, seeing the trains
Yeah.
at that time. I mean, I loved going to school because I had 3 train station stops to watch the trains, and Scene was painting the 6 line, Mitch 77 was painting the 4s and the 2s. It was just so you can tell a brand new piece because the train was so dilapidated. Was it? Oh my God, the train was just rusted and dirty, and all of a sudden there was a fresh coat of paint on it.
Ooh.
And you can see it coming out of the tunnel.
Yeah.
And you're like, what is it? What is it? Oh my God. It's a new Mitch 77 piece. Oh my God. It's just like crazy.
The excitement, yes.
Oh my God. And you went to school. You're like, oh, Mitch 77 just did a new piece. Oh my God, it was crazy. And that was
Yeah.
my childhood.
Yeah.
That was,
And that's what Martha was saying. She would sit for hours benching, like they said,
yeah.
waiting for a train. Who's going to be the next piece, the
It
next
was
thing?
crazy. It was crazy. I remember getting,
The thrill must have been so incredible.
I did pieces with my friend Gil, and we got off on so there's the writer's bench. It's on 149th Street
Yeah.
train station, but the next stop was 180th Street in the Bronx, and it was outdoors,
Okay.
and the tracks made like a S curve, so the train would go and leave the station and then turn, and then you could see the other side.
Ooh.
So
even
you're
better.
like, I know which train this is. So if you did a piece, you went to that stop. You didn't go to the bench,
Oh.
because then you could see both sides of the train. And that train would only go like 5 more stops to the end and then come back.
And come back.
And then go. And so you knew it was coming back in like 15 minutes. And
All right.
you get ready to get a picture. And we were standing on the train left, and there was like 4 guys on the other side, and they're like, yo, those pieces were great. I'm like, dude, do you know them? He's like, I have no idea who they are. But
they look all
thanks.
What,
But they knew from a
they knew, yeah.
platform. You graffiti artists always knew. They're like, yeah, those guys paint,
Yeah.
and that was when I look back on it, I'm like, man, I wouldn't want it for any of my friends' kids, but man, I would not want it for me,
Yeah.
because it was fantastic. It was fantastic.
So talking about style, you said that you kind of developed the 3D style. We brushed on that earlier.
I will say that I'm
Yeah, you say it.
the
Grandfather of.
I had been working on the drawings for a long time.
Okay.
So my friend Mayor 139, Carlos, he made a sculpture out of marble,
Interesting.
white marble. And it was just it was thick, and he just put a piece of glass on top, and it was a coffee table.
All right.
And I was like, and he did the letter E, but what he did is he still did it
kind of squarish. Yeah.
One-dimensional.
All right.
So when you look at it, you can see the letter E like if it was drawn on a piece of paper.
All right.
But I moved to the side and I was like, I can see the side. I can see the side. I moved to the back and I'm like, I could see the back. So while his piece, what I thought was stagnant, it inspired my mind. I was like, what if the back interacts with the front?
Okay.
So it has to cross the 3D. It has to cross and it has to start to bend. It has to start to move. And I start doing these sketches and stuff. And I'm like, I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew it looked good.
It looked good.
It looked good. And then I got a job. I'm in Los Angeles. I'm working on a TV show and I'm making good money. I'm working in Warner Brothers. I'm the first graffiti artist in the Scenic Artists Union.
Oh,
right?
wow.
Because I can't be on the Warner Brothers lot.
Okay.
Unless I'm a scenic artist. Now the scenic artists tried to block me. Right? Because they were like, no, because my nephew needs a job.
Oh, yeah, sure.
No. This is how the union went.
Oh, that was union, yes.
This is all union stuff. So the producer of the show backed me. And he's like, he's not doing any scenic artist stuff. He's only doing murals. That's it. He will not do any union stuff. So when I met the union guys, I was like, I like you guys. Remember, I lived in Beverly Hills.
Yes.
You know who I live with? The carpenters on the show.
Oh, okay.
So they were like, Ernie's with us. Ernie's with us. So I'm developing these graffiti letters and I'm painting on the show. And they literally were like, you can't do anything else. But what I did was I had my own budget.
Yeah.
On the show. And the scenic artist comes to me and he's like, I heard that you have your own budget. I'm like, I do. And he's like, listen, my nephew wants to get into the union, but he has no paintbrushes. So I'm like, what does he need?
Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm like, if I'm not spending it, it just goes to the next episode.
Exactly, yeah.
So I'm like, I have everything I need. So they're like, can you get him some brushes? I'm like, absolutely. Write me a list. Write me a list.
All right.
And they were just like, they would do anything for me because I would do anything for them. I had one guy tell me like stories about a mural artist that he knew. And finally at the end of when he was done, he just like 3 or 4 stories. I'm like, yeah, that's me. And he's like, it was? I'm like, you worked on The Flash, right? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, it was me.
So you've been everywhere. So
it's a weird thing to say it. Like, I don't normally say it. I don't normally go around telling people, oh, I've been everywhere. You know, if people are interested, I'll share. Like you know.
Well,
I've been interested.
That's what it is in this podcast. That's why it's called Write Your Narrative. And obviously you wrote your narrative all over the world. And now you've been in Wynwood, Miami for what, 15 years?
Yeah. I started doing these 3D graffiti pieces because of a graffiti artist that I met in Hollywood Frame. Who's still a good friend of mine. But he is responsible for me putting the first 3D piece on a wall.
All right.
You know, if not for him, it's Dime in Germany. It's symbiotic because Dime, I don't think he saw my piece. I think he saw something that made him. But Dime's pieces and a lot of those European artists, they come from a different sense of value of how they look at the piece. Mm-hmm. They look at it as, can it be built?
Yes.
And I look at it as, can it be graffiti?
Okay, you do a reverse.
Yeah, I'm like, it's got to have an arrow.
Yes.
It's got to have an arrow here. Like, my pieces cannot be built because they don't make sense.
They wouldn't make sense, yeah.
They make sense as a one-dimensional painting. They make sense on the wall. They're great as a painting, but you try to build it and you're like, no, it makes no sense. It makes no sense at all. Those guys, man, what they do, I'm like, you guys are really good. And me and Dime almost painted together in the 90s, but the wall, the permission didn't come, so we didn't paint. But we've been friends online. I haven't seen him since that day in the 90s.
Oh, okay.
But we're still friends. You know, I'm like, and almost like these guys, man, they paint with such precision.
They do.
Like they're like, if they were Jason Bourne would run from them. You know, you're like, no, those guys are real assassins. You know, all right. And you see, like, you know, people like PETA and people like, you know, these people with like
quite amazing PETA.
And I'm like, I don't have the intensity of painting so precise anymore. My painting now is like, I want to tell a story.
Okay.
So I just need to tell that story, right? So like this painting on my wall, this party piece.
I love it.
Yeah. All I need is to tell the story and make you love it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't need to be better than them. Those guys are fantastic. I can't compete with that because they're younger and they have the intensity. They have like, when I was younger, I was like, I'll spend. And today I'm like,
you want to chew the world. I mean, right now, you know, I mean, and every day there will be someone coming with something new, a new style, or improving something new, or painting on a different surface, or painting a different way. Like you mentioned, Ox was just going all out, like crazy, man. just like, I mean, you know, things are different every day, and good thing that art, street art, graffiti art is evolving, and it's evolving in a great way. I mean, in so many different things, so many different aspects.
Fantastic. And again, I'm really fortunate that everything I've done. When you hear somebody come to you and say, "I saw your pieces when I was 13, 14 years old," and these are people who are accomplished artists today. And they tell you like, you inspired me, you know. And I can't imagine like, what if I was like a jerk? You know, I was a jerk, and they were like, I'd be miserable today. I'd still be a jerk. I'd just be a jerk times 4.
Well, that's what happened when you're born a jerk. You grew up a jerk, and then you
exactly. I love the concept that people come up to me and they like whisper it to me. They're like, man, I've been watching your stuff for decades. You inspired me.
Well, that's what I said.
Like, that's amazing. One time we were in Paris, right? We were in Paris, and this guy comes up to me with his phone, and he's like, the piece that's in Subway Art on the back cover, the Erni piece, not even a 3D piece. It's a piece I did on a train. He's like, that's you. And I'm like, yeah.
Yes.
He's like, don't move. Stay right here. And he ran, he got his friend, and his friend is like, we're in Paris, we're in a gallery open for Lady Pink, and this guy is like, you changed the whole scene of Paris graffiti. And I'm like, how? Me? What did I do? I didn't do anything. He's like, when Subway Art came out, everybody in Paris saw that piece in the back of the cover, and they were like, what the hell? What the hell?
Absolutely.
Everybody else's piece was similar.
Yeah.
They were studying this piece, and they were like, how does this happen with just 4 colors? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I am not really sure. The purest art, right? The purest art is not practiced. You know, I practiced my trade.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
Right? But I didn't know I was going to paint that. And at the same time, I didn't know it was going to end up on a cover of a book. I think there was a lot more better pieces than mine that should have had space on the book.
Yeah.
Especially my favorite artist, Mitch 77. They put a lot of stuff from Scene. I think Mitch 77 did equally as much as he did. Although I think Scene did a lot of really great stuff.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah, but you know, at the time, this only represents, this book, Subway Art, only represents about 30% of what was on the trains that I saw. You know, so when you look at the book, and the book changed a lot of things in Europe because everybody thought this is what everybody's doing, so they made a conglomeration of style.
Yeah.
And it was like, I can't tell who's who no more.
Right.
Like in this book, you can tell like there's different people.
Oh yeah, but that's Subway Art. I mean, forever is going to be the Bible. I mean, everybody calls it like this, and yes, it is. Yes, it is. So unfortunately, Erni, this is all the time we have for today. We can definitely do an episode 2 or 3, do a second show, because I wanted to talk about Keith Haring and David LaChapelle that you met and all those people. But we're gonna. You were fortunate enough to work and meet those people at the time. So Erni,
I can do it real quick.
Yeah. All right.
Keith Haring, one of the most wonderful, nicest, incredible people who I have actually tried to base my career on how he treated people. He was amazing. He was always made time for you. He never was arrogant. He was never. That's why you never hear a bad story about Keith Haring. You never. You know, he was just really he was badass. And when he became really, really successful and very wealthy, he never changed.
He was still the same man, yeah.
He's always just.
All right, Erni, this is the time we have for this podcast. I mean, thank you so much for sharing that story, your story, the way you wrote your narrative with our audience, with our listeners.
My pleasure.
It was my pleasure too, and I hope everybody's going to have a good time listening to all these true stories. All right.
I'm sorry. Wait, I made it all up.
You made it all up. Oh, no. Sorry, people. I hope you didn't listen to the podcast and
don't
till
apologize.
The end of it.
Here's a good story.
No. There were some good stories.
Yeah. Nah, we're kidding. All right. It's a pleasure. Thank you for coming.
All right. Thanks again, everyone, and we'll see you next week on the next episode. Bye-bye now. Thanks.